Bro, what I want to do on this podcast, at least at first, is I want to talk about what is happening with Israel and Iran, and now what has probably stopped happening for a brief moment. I want to talk about generally how 2025 or the last couple of years post-COVID war has sort of materialized, and I want to talk about India in this context, right? That's my general sense. I want the viewers at the end of it to have a more than comprehensive, more than podcast comprehensive. Podcasting level is 4th standard level. Now I want to take them to 8th standard level. So go all out. Tell me about what the hell? Because it is not what we see. What we are seeing with Israel and Iran does not look like what we are seeing. Let me paint it out one more degree. For the longest time during this conflict, all of America was bloodthirsty for regime change in Iran. And then suddenly something flipped where they threw Israel be like, अब तू लड़ता रहे कोई नहीं, हम तो इनके साथ peace sign करके जा रहे हैं. And Iran's last attack on Qatar seemed very fake. Nothing happened. The airspaces weren't closed for longer than a couple of hours. And so there's a theatrical element to it. And I want to understand what is the conflict about and why does it look like this?
Okay. The conflict is entirely Iran's making. And I'll tell you what the root of it is. It comes to the 1979 revolution. I'll tell you why. You'll hear all this nonsense about how Iran are very sophisticated diplomats and all of that. That's all complete bullshit. Within 1 year of 1979, Khomeini had gone and alienated every single one of his neighbors and every single one of his benefactors, suppliers, and everything. The first person he alienated was America. America was totally happy with the Shah being kicked. I mean, they weren't upset about the Shah being kicked out or anything. They're like, okay, new government, we will work with the new government. You want to industrialize, we'll help you with your industry. In those days, you know, America was actually helping the Shah with his nuclear program.
The Shah was an American puppet, no?
He wasn't a puppet.
Okay.
Never make the mistake of assuming he's a puppet.
Okay.
That's propaganda.
Okay.
He was running his own agenda. It dovetailed very well into the American agenda. But the Shah made Iran, at that time in 1979, Iran was ahead of South Korea, Iran was ahead of Taiwan in terms of industrialization. It was on the cusp of becoming a full-scale industrial power.
Interesting.
He was also running a nuclear program, which there are records of Donald Rumsfeld of all people saying, let them go nuclear, no problem. We should keep it hidden for a while. But if they go nuclear, you know, it's not really an issue. Okay, so the Americans were quite happy to let them go nuclear. Then what happens is Ayatollah Khomeini comes. The Americans are more than happy to work with Ayatollah Khomeini, which is why they don't let the Shah of Iran even enter America. He has to go find whatever in Egypt. What ends up happening is Ayatollah Khomeini's shock troops or whatever students go and take the American hostages at the embassy. That destroys the relationship completely. They were held for over a year. And Khomeini was supporting them. He failed to discharge his obligations under the Vienna Convention, Geneva Convention, any convention. It was a violation of basic diplomatic norms. You can't take an embassy hostage. He did. And he refused to, go in and capture them or allow the Americans to come in and rescue whatever. Essentially, he was holding them hostage. Let's be clear about this. He alienated America. The USSR invaded Afghanistan. He decided everything is a jihad, so he alienated the USSR. So you alienate both sides in the Cold War so spectacularly. Then he goes and alienates all the Arab countries. In those days, Israel had a veto on what everybody else got, but not Iran. Israel could never veto what Iran got. So Iran used to get exactly what it wanted. Because it was not Saudi Arabia, it was not the Emirates, it was not Israel, it was Iran. That was the number one American ally in the Gulf.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. At a time when Israel hadn't been cleared for the F-16, Iran started getting the F-14, which was a much more complicated fighter at that time, much more capable. Of course, it wasn't developed to the full extent that it probably should have, but much more sophisticated fighter than the initial iterations of the F-16. That is how far Iran was. And what does this Khomeini guy say? He says, we're going to have a revolution everywhere. All the kingdoms need to be overthrown.
All the kingdoms in the Arab countries.
All the Muslim kingdoms.
Right.
That is why he didn't say Shia revolution. He said Islamic revolution.
Interesting.
And a theocracy should rule all these countries. These rulers are all rotten. Now, listen, all the countries surrounding you are kingdoms. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman,
Jordan.
all the 7 crucial states of the Emirates. So that's what Sharjah, Fujairah, Ajman, Al Quwain, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Kuwait. They are all monarchies. Jordan is a monarchy. What did you expect their reaction was going to be? He alienated everyone to the point nobody was supplying him. Nobody. Iraq invaded. Iraq was set up to invade Iran. Of course, Iraq also wanted to do it. Let's not infantilize Iraq. They invade. Iran loses 700,000 people in that war. That spans 10 years, destroys the Iranian economy, destroys Iran. All the industrial progress stopped. All your infrastructure destroyed. Everything destroyed. And the flower of your youth destroyed. And he was carrying out internal purges against the same military that was trying to protect Iran. It was a nasty... Nobody did more damage to Iran than Khomeini did. Okay? I'm not saying the Shah was a very nice guy.
Sure.
We make the mistake of going to the other extreme.
Right.
And he decided, because he realized he had made a mistake in alienating all the Arab kings, he decided, and calling for their overthrow, he decided, okay, who's the common enemy? Let's focus on the common enemy, Israel, because it's oppressing the Palestinians, which is where the support started. Now, what happens in those 10 to 15 years after 79 is, Iran falls way back because nobody's supplying it. You've alienated everybody. Saudi Arabia and the Emirates become the primary powers in the Gulf. They are ally number 1, not Iran. Iraq becomes the USSR's ally number 1. Syria becomes ally number 2 or 1, depending on your point of view. Nobody has any room for Iran. Iran becomes so backward militarily. Now, when you become backward militarily, you have only 2 options. So, for example, when the Arab states lost 4 wars to the Israelis, the 48-49 war, the 56 Suez campaign, the 67 war, the 7-day war, and the 73 Yom Kippur war, what do? You find asymmetricity, you find terrorism. So they all adopted terrorist state policy. Same thing happened with Pakistan also. They lost the 47-48 war, they lost the 65 war, they lost the 71 war. So what do they resort to? Terrorism. Now, when you go in for terrorism, so there are 3 spectrums: nuclear, conventional, subconventional. Subconventional is basically terrorism. If in the middle, this is the main segment of state power, is destroyed or is useless, you have only 2 options, this and this. The problem with this is you have to calibrate it very carefully. 1 bomb, 5 people, maybe the country won't react. You kill maybe 20, 30 people, maybe it won't react. You do something like 9/11, or you do something like, the 7th of October in Israel, the reaction is going to be brutal. So, your terror actions have always got to be restrained, or else you get pummeled in this segment.
Middle category.
Okay. Now, how do you prevent getting pummeled in this category? Is you have to have nuclear weapons. So, fundamentally, there is no state which depends on terrorism as its primary tool of policy that does not require nuclear weapons in order to expand this scope. Which is why Syria was building a nuclear reactor. Which is why Iraq tried to build a nuclear reactor. Which is why Iran is 100% trying to build nuclear weapons. I mean, those reactors weren't just reactors. They were all secret reactors to build nuclear weapons.
Sure.
Okay? Yeah. Except Osirak, but Osirak, everybody knew that it was a weapons reactor. So, this is an absolute need. You also have, there is Japan. Japan today has enough uranium and plutonium, mostly plutonium, for 120 nuclear bombs. Stashed and stored. They can probably weaponize within a month because they have very advanced technology. But they've never cheated. They've always declared all their stocks and stores. They've said, we're building this facility, we're building this enrichment facility. Anytime the IAEA wants to go inspect, they get to go inspect. There is no timeout on inspection. You want to inspect the stocks? Sure, come inspect the stocks. Do you suspect anybody is designing nuclear weapons in Japan? You're free to go into those labs and check if it is being built or not. So there is no suspicion on Japan. There will be the occasional Japanese politician who says, we need the bomb. Let's have this conversation. Will you let us come out of the NPT? It is done in a very, very open way. And mostly the government doesn't want to go nuclear because they have a huge conventional advantage. Their military forces, that middle band are so... See, a person who has overwhelming conventional advantage in that middle band will not want to go up because having a nuclear weapon makes a little poo the same as you.
Right.
Okay.
You have successful deterrence as a smaller player.
Exactly.
Yes.
You don't want to equalize.
Right.
Therefore, you also choose not to get the Okay. Mostly. I mean, there are always exceptions that prove the rule. So what ends up happening here is Iran, on the other hand, has a history of lying and cheating. Starting from 1998, they have consistently been caught concealing facilities, concealing enrichment, concealing stockpiles. In 2001, when the invasion of Afghanistan happened, and then 2003, the Iraq invasion, they stopped enrichment because they were scared that they were next. Afghanistan has fallen, Iraq has fallen, we are next. When they realized they went next, within a year, they started enriching again.
Because now they want to nuclearize.
On one hand, they're scared, but they know they're not going to be regime change. Therefore, we want to nuclearize. And we want to protect our regime. Now, what the Israelis realized was that fear of regime change should have never been removed from Iran. There should have always been that threat of regime change. So that had happened. Consistently, every 2 years, almost every 2 years, Iran has been caught cheating. Lying, hiding, cheating. They have actually found the blueprints of weapon devices. They have found the blueprints for taking that implosion, the plutonium implosion device, and mating it with a Shahab-3 missile. They have found the tools and equipment and testing kit to do the mating with the Shahab-3 missile. What confidence do you have in Iran?
So you were saying that this action from Israel is a legitimate concern of Iran nuclearizing?
No, it is not a concern. It is legitimate. Iran will weaponize.
Right. And that the reason presented to the world that hum log isliye ghus rahe hain because ye nuclear weapon bana rahe is true.
And after 2011, after what happened to Gaddafi, you saw how Gaddafi was killed. He was he gave up his nuclear program, and still the American, French and Brits went and regime changed him.
Right.
And he died kutte ki maut mara on the streets of wherever, Tripoli or wherever he was killed. He was tortured and killed. They saw what happened to Saddam Hussein, who was denuclearized and then hanged. They've decided, no.
Nuclear banenge.
We see everything. Need, the military logic that I explained, their own actions in the past, what happened to Gaddafi, what happened to Saddam Hussein, what happened in Syria, shows them that they are next.
So why have Israel and the United States woken up specifically in June 2025? Or
because that was the window of opportunity. Biden would have not let them go for it. Obama, they wanted to do this in 2008. Obama did not let them do it.
Achha, so that's purely the sort of strategic concerns on the back channels.
When George Bush was around, they didn't have the capability to do it apparently, or not enough of a capability, but they very carefully built up that capability to do it now.
But if I follow that logic, then because for a brief moment, I was completely convinced the United States wants regime change.
No, they did that because of the lesson of what happened with Iran in 2003-4. They immediately stop enrichment because they're shit scared they're going to get invaded by America. But when that threat recedes by 2004-2005, they start enrichment with a vengeance again. The threat always had to be held over Iran. The threat remains over Iran. Why do you think IRGC quarters and Evin prison were the administrative section of Evin prison, which is Iran's most notorious prison, was bombed in the hope that there would be a big breakout of prisoners and all the jail staff would be killed. Because their thing is, look, if you want regime change, you have to do it. We can't do it. Trump is in a... First, Israel can't do regime change in Iran. They don't have the capability.
No, you need popular support on ground.
Forget popular support on ground. Even if you don't have popular support on ground, you can regime change. Okay. But Israel doesn't have the military capability to do regime change. America does, except Trump was elected on a thing of no more foreign wars. Especially no regime change.
Exactly, yes.
Targeted strike, okay, sure. Regime change, no. But that threat had to be held out.
So you were saying...
So there is a second example of this, which was the Yugoslavia bombing over Kosovo. So Kosovo, they concocted this case. There was no genocide in Kosovo. NATO concocted this case for genocide. They bombed Serbia, what is now known as Serbia, then it was the rump Yugoslavia, for 30, 40, 50 days, the Yugoslavs were like, keep bombing us, we're not giving up Kosovo. Then they threatened ground invasion. The moment they threatened ground invasion and regime change, the Serbs made peace.
I see. So if you hit the leader in his personal interest, they start behaving.
The regime's interest.
Yeah, the regime's interest, which is kind of like him and the continuity.
In Yugoslavia, it wasn't a personal interest.
I see what you mean. So, bro, but you're saying, because it sounds very odd to me, and I'll lay out a little bit more, ठीक है? India-Pakistan war के बाद, Trump की सारी हरकतें, it just sounds like वो अपनी population को और Nobel Peace Prize Committee को convince करने में लगा है, उसने nuclear war रोक दी.
Look, he's not, okay.
Let me just finish. And the same thing happened here. I feel like if I was an Israeli leader, right? I'd be like, पहले तो अमेरिका ने बोला मार, सो मैंने बॉम्ब मारे, मैंने मधुमक्खी के छत्ते में हाथ दे दिया, और फिर अमेरिका एक दिन आया मधुमक्खी के छत्ते पे एक वो मारा, कह रहा मैंने मारा, एंड नाउ आई हैव रन अवे, द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स हैज रन अवे, लीविंग द इजराइल्स हैंड इनसाइड द बीज नेस्ट, right? And so it's abandoned its most popular ally in that region, at least that's what we know of, to claim some brownie points on the international stage for peace.
Okay.
And this Nobel Peace Prize thing keeps coming up. This India trade thing keeps coming up.
I get what you're saying, but that's not true, and I'll tell you why. India achieved all its war goals on the night of the 6th, which was what? We wanted to hit terrorists very hard so that they think 100 times before. We did that. We then walked Pakistan into a trap. We said, look, we're hitting terrorist infrastructure. You have a choice. If you say that these people are acting independently, you don't have to respond to hitting terrorist sites. Pakistan chose to respond and therefore become the protector of terrorists, which is why when Modi gave his speech on that. So we achieved our goals on the night of the 10th, on the night of this, the morning of the 7th, essentially. And the next day, Pakistan tried attacking us. They were extremely unsuccessful at attacking us. Not one of their drones, missiles, anything managed to hit anything of any value. They were all intercepted, which was truly commendable. And on the night of the 9th, which was the day 7th ko, we hit them.
Right.
8th, they hit us. 9th night, we had disabled all their major air bases. Not one runway for an F-16 or JF-17 was properly operational in that country.
Sure.
We had grounded them. We took out their nuclear command authority bunker. About 40-50 pilots and God knows how many highly trained people out there. See, a plane, it takes only 1 year or less to replace it. A trained person, even 10-15 years later, you may not be able to replace him or her.
Right.
In Pakistan's case, him only. We can be quite clear of that.
Yes, go on.
So, we achieved all our objectives on the 7th, start of war objectives, end of war objectives on the 10th. So, when the Americans call, we're like, sure, ask the Pakistanis to stop it. We had proven what we wanted to prove.
Sure.
They call, ceasefire, sure, okay. That's what we offered you on day 1. I mean, it didn't have to go this far. You didn't listen. Now you can't fly. Ask me, why does the Pakistanis still have not denied that it was their DGMO who called our DGMO?
Boss, I think Pakistan saying, victory parade, gaane bana diye.
That you can't help. See, even today, Iran is claiming victory.
Right.
Imagine having your entire air force wiped out, all your air defenses wiped out, 86% of your ballistic missiles intercepted, your entire nuclear program in ruins. If that is victory for you, I wish Iran 1,000 years of victory. So let's not get diverted because I haven't finished answering your first question.
Yes, please.
The Israelis, what did they achieve? They took out all the air defenses. They took out the air force. After the first day when we saw an F-5 fly and one other plane fly, there was no Iranian plane that ever got up in the air after that. They didn't manage to shoot down a single Israeli plane. They shot down 2 drones, which fly with a huge propeller on the backside and flying at 220 kilometers per hour. They brought down 2 drones that were flying at 220 to 250 kilometers per hour, which you can see. I've seen those drones flying over when I'm in Israel and in Cochin, where the Navy operates, our Navy operates similar drones. They are loud. You can see them. They're literally flying on top. You shot it down. Wow. What have you achieved? Your nuclear capability. And see, I'm not going to get into this nonsense about was it obliterated or was it damaged. The point is it's been entombed. you can't use it. You can't use it. If you want to use it, there is very visible work that you have to do. All the moving tractors, trucks have to come in. Earth has to be moved. The moment you see them going near it, you'll drop a bomb on the construction crew or the demolition recovery crew. Whatever that crew is called, you'll drop a bomb on it. So you can't use it anymore. Will Iran try to recover some of the material and recover whatever? I think so.
Sure.
Will they try to rebuild? I think so. At which point it becomes a mowing the grass operation, which is once you've landscaped your garden, all you have to do is once a week, you have to take that trolley ki tarah thing and, mow the grass. That's it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to put pesticide here and there, if there are bugs there, you have to.
So it's a maintenance act.
It's a maintenance act. So this is not the end, by the way. There are if Iran tries to do anything with those sites, Israel is going to go back and do something. But it won't be such a high caliber strike. It will be chota strikes here and there. More a maintenance operation, not a construction operation or demolition operation, as the case may be. There is one thing that gives me great alarm. That is Koh Kalang. Koh Kalang is this mountain extension of Natanz.
Koh Kalang. How do you spell that?
Kuh, as in Kohinoor, mountain of light, Kuh, mountain. Kolang is pickaxe.
Okay, sure.
Kolang. Okay. Now, Koh Kalang is, if this is Natanz, where my ring is Natanz, this is the mountain over Natanz. They've built a very, very deep facility, possibly with 1,000 feet of
rock above them,
mountain above them, which is where they're storing their enriched uranium, which clearly has not been touched. They bombed Natanz, but they did not bomb Koh Kalang. Does that mean they have at least some stocks of their 60% enriched uranium? Yes. Does it mean that the more impotent Iran looks conventionally, the greater their need for nuclear weapons? I am now convinced, because Israel and America have not finished the job, and because it's a mowing the lawn operation. A, there are going to be more Israeli strikes. B, Iran is not going to rest. C, if the Iranians manage to plug their intelligence gaps, I doubt they will, but if they do, Iran will now have a cast iron reason, legal excuse, and the ability to create a nuclear weapon.
Now they have more motivation.
They have much more motivation.
Right, because they've seen what happens if they don't have it. There's no deterrence.
There's no deterrence.
Right, and they do have their enriched uranium, you think, stored, because Netanyahu made a statement to that effect, something of the nature of...
he said we have interesting intelligence.
Yes, interesting intel.
Now, I don't know what the hell interesting intel means.
Yeah, okay, finish that point.
But let's also look at it this way. Maybe even having a nuclear device doesn't give you that deterrence. Operation Sindoor proves that. You can escalate to near full-scale war even with nuclear weapons. I don't think any two nuclear weapon states have come to the level of escalation that India-Pakistan did in May 2025.
Yeah,
we called their nuclear bluff. What we did with Pakistan, the ground strikes were spectacular. You damaged their bunkers, you damaged their airfields, you caused very significant damage to military infrastructure out there. With absolute impunity, they're not able to do anything to you. That's very significant. Deterrence also, we need to remember, is a mind game. It doesn't exist in reality. The thing about deterrence is we don't want Hiroshima and Nagasaki to happen again. Does anybody have a rupee note? A high denomination rupee
500?
note? Give it to me.
You can take it.
Do you believe this is worth 500 rupees?
Yeah.
Why?
Because the RBI governor signs saying I am the bearer of this value, so on and so forth.
This isn't even worth 20 paise.
Sure, in production value.
In production value.
Right.
You believe the notional value of this.
Right.
Why? Because the RBI governor has signed it and it's got this 500 rupee written on it. Now, it is total notional value. Deterrence is like that. You believe that this is a horrible weapon that should not be used. The fact is it has been used. It has been used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The people don't realize this, but the firebombings of Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka killed far more people than the nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. One firebombing of Tokyo claimed 120,000 lives. The second firebombing of Tokyo claimed about 90,000 lives. Hiroshima was about 60,000, Nagasaki even less. Do you think the Japanese got scared? They didn't surrender immediately after Hiroshima. Why did Nagasaki have to happen? They surrendered after the USSR announced it was entering the war. But because we wanted to control nuclear weapons, everybody collectively agreed, they're terrible weapons, we shouldn't use them. Therefore, we will create this myth of nuclear deterrence. Because we can't afford for them to be used.
Answer a question for me. And this goes back to my original question about...
And by the way, the Japanese knew exactly what a nuclear bomb was. They themselves had a nuclear bomb program. They had a lot of exchange with the German nuclear facility at Peenemünde. The Germans got their ab initio designs wrong. Which was basically the joint European-American effort to create the American bomb, Fermi and Oppenheimer and all those people. They had very early on decided that it was cylindrical rods that were required to produce the kind of enrichment and irradiation required. The Germans never understood that. They produced chains, link chains of uranium, which was it's got so many surfaces and things, you can't get stability. So there were ab initio design flaws in the German Peenemünde designs.
Got it.
Okay. And the Japanese, they knew exactly what it wasn't the Japanese got scared, what is this device? They knew exactly what had gone off on that day over Hiroshima.
Interesting.
They were still not ready to surrender. And it wasn't Nagasaki that made them surrender. It was the fact that the USSR entered the war. And because the USSR actually had a huge almost land border, Sakhalin Island.
On the north.
On the north.
Yes.
They were much closer than the Americans were. The Americans would have to project power for a much greater distance.
Right.
And the USSR would not be as forgiving as the Americans would be.
I see.
Okay. Because they saw what was happening in Germany, where the Americans hadn't gone around massacring German civilians in retaliation and things like that. Right? So the Japanese then surrendered to America to prevent the USSR. They didn't surrender to the Allies. Remember this. Germany unconditionally surrendered to the Allies.
Interesting. So not to
Japan did not surrender to the Allies. Japan surrendered to America.
Okay.
Thereby gaining American protection for the whole of Japan, especially Hokkaido, which was going to be annexed. But even before that, south of Sakhalin are the Kuril Island chain. The Russians managed to take all 4 of those islands, which Japan now claims as their own.
Interesting. But I don't want to get distracted. I want to bring this back. You were saying, for instance...
So there is this notion that deterrence is...
psychological thing.
It is. I mean, we can all agree to the fact that it's psychological. But Iran has now lost so much, but it has now gained the space to actually make a nuclear weapon if they can pull it off. Because legally, it is Iran's right to enrich as much uranium as it damn well wants. The NPT does not tell you that you cannot enrich to 60%. It does not tell you cannot enrich to 90%. You have every right to explore every part of the nuclear fuel cycle, which is extraction, fabrication, enrichment, and reprocessing, which is where plutonium comes from, okay, which is more useful in nuclear terms. The problem there is Iranians will now say, look, you didn't protect our rights. Why the hell should we protect your duties and responsibilities? We now do not have a responsibility to the NPT. We will do what the hell we want.
Right.
If they get their counterintelligence in order, if they're able to smuggle out enough, if they're able to do what we did in 1998, I doubt very much because they're much more infiltrated than we ever were. They are almost certainly going to go nuclear. There is going to be several small incidents over the next few years. And unless there is regime change, I do not see how you're going to stop the Iranian nuke now.
Got it.
Or the government falls, whatever.
Got it. There's actually many things I want to talk about from here. So you did mention how India called Pakistan's nuclear bluff by escalating to almost full-scale war and getting nothing in return. My sense, and this ties into Trump's antics to some degree, is that the reason
Right.
it took from.
That was your initial question. Now, the whole world, to some extent, because their focus was on us for those
7,
3
8
days
days.
between 6th to the 10th of May.
Sure.
In that, we lost the PR war.
Sure.
We started winning the PR war after the 10th when nobody paid attention because the bombing had stopped. Okay. So it doesn't matter that we won the post-PRP, the post-war window PR war. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of irrelevant. Number one. But no matter what publicly you claim you have won, you can't hide it from your own military. What we know is that the core commanders in Pakistan are furious and they're demoralized. First of all, this fellow Asim Munir never took permission from them to do the Pahalgam attack. He never informed. He doesn't need permission, but he should have informed them. He did not. They were already knives out for him. Why do you think he declared himself field marshal?
So that there is no question, no accountability.
He's kind of shielded himself because Musharraf, even after being convicted and being handed a death sentence, the army protected him. They said, you get out of the country, don't come back, but we will not allow you to, an army chief, to spend even 1 day in jail. He's declared himself field marshal so that he can't ever be questioned anymore. But that doesn't mean you've won a great victory as far as the Pakistani public are concerned. They believe 71 was a victory. Do you know that?
Sure, I know this.
Yeah. They believe the Western Front they won, the Eastern Front they lost. 65 also they believe was their victory.
Sure, I get that also. But yes.
Now what happens in all of this is the core commanders know very well. The core commanders are the real power in Pakistan. They're the real cabinet. The chief of army staff is the real prime minister. They all know the prime minister is shaky. He is now fighting for his political survival. He now has a conundrum. If he wants to reinforce his position with the core commanders and regain their confidence, he needs a visible victory, which is another, or to show India impotent, which is another big terror strike in India. The problem is, because he's been shown to have been so weak and allows so many Indian strikes to completely immobilize their air force, if he does another terror strike in India, which he needs for his political survival, he will lose militarily even bigger the next time. Why? Because Modi made that very smartly. First, we laid a trap for them on the 6th, on the 7th. And on the 10th, we made clear the extent of the disaster to them in Modi's speech. What did he say? A, nuclear blackmail will not work. So don't threaten us with nuclear. We've got bigger nuclear weapons. 2, we will no longer consider terrorism to be separate from the Pakistan military. You yourself, that was the trap. You walked yourself in there. 3rd, this is now going to be the standard response. It is not going to be if, when, will we not. You do anything. We will not show proof.
So we are not interested in diplomacy after this.
We are not interested. Forget diplomacy. We are not even interested in the legalities of proof. Tomorrow, if a bomb goes off in, I don't know, Jhumri Talaiya, and 30, 40 people get killed, and there is the slightest suspicion that Pakistan did it, we will not even make a case for Pakistan doing it and proof. We will immediately go into action, which is why Operation Sindoor is paused. It is not stopped. So he now realizes if he does a terror strike, he needs a terror strike to shore up his position with the core commanders.
Sure.
On the other hand, if he does that terror strike, he will lose even more credibility with the core commanders because Pakistan will get hammered all over again.
I get it.
That is his problem. Trump's thing was he just did a facilitation role. We were ready for a ceasefire from day one. We said, we've done what we wanted to. Where do you want this to go? If you want this to go, we'll keep escalating more than you can ever even imagine. This was the first war in which we have had escalation control. Otherwise, they are normally the ones to escalate. This time, we were the ones doing all the escalation was done by us. They did not escalate anything. We did everything. Trump needs validation. He's got that classic right-wing problem that the right-wing has a severe inferiority complex and they need your worst enemy to come and say, oh, sir, you are the sun and the moon. You are the alpha and the omega.
He's also a content creator, bro. Psychologically, he's a media man.
But But this is why he's been making his desperate pleas for Nobel Prize. He's acting like a pyromaniac in that sense. Like he'll start the war and then he'll
Stop
try
it
to end
at
it.
his pace.
At his pace.
Yes.
But Israel also achieved most of its goals.
Got it.
Okay. What they could achieve from a distance and what politically Trump could do short of ground invasion, in which case he would have lost MAGA completely, he did.
Right.
Okay. So everything that could have been done has been done. Does he deserve a Nobel Prize? Yes. Should he make it so visibly and cringily ask for it? It's a bit below your dignity.
But why is...
But look,
Yes.
does he deserve a Nobel Prize? Yes. And I'll tell you why. It's not for
Great
stopping a war he started in Israel-Iran.
Right.
Or stopping a war that India was never too keen on and Pakistan desperately wanted stopped. What he needs to get the Nobel Prize for is the Abraham Accords. He achieved something in his first term which nobody else would have ever managed. It required Trump to be in the presidency at that time for the Abraham Accords to be signed. You know why? Because he called out all these bloody think tankers and strategic analysts for the frauds that they were. It turned out he knew the Arab countries and Israel better than people who had spent their entire lives studying it. Do I think he's well-intentioned and has he shown those good intentions vis-a-vis Russia, vis-a-vis India, vis-a-vis... you can doubt the method.
Sure.
But let's not doubt the intent.
Okay, interesting.
And I don't care if the intent is to get a Nobel Prize, as long as he doesn't intend to harm anyone.
I get it. Like it's vanity.
He has not demonized the Iranians at all. He's not called them radicalized whack jobs. He's never used that term that George Bush Jr. used, which was axis of evil. He has never said evil, evil, evil.
Right. He's not made it
keeps saying
biblical.
the great nation of Iran. Iran needs to be a great country. We need to build infrastructure and economies, not bombs and things like that. I think he's been a very good president. He is mocked for his greatest achievements because that is what liberals do.
Sure, I think he's also losing popular support with his MAGA crowd. But
No, he's not. Because I
some
think
extent.
most MAGA realize very well the difference between, mowing the grass and going in for a full regime invasion.
Sure.
Okay. There are the weird ones like Candace Owens, who's vitriolically, look, you can't account for anti-Semitism. There are
So
some
that's
parts
a
of MAGA that are anti-Semitic, who are
anti-Semitic search.
anti-India.
Sure,
or
right.
anti-EU.
Yeah.
Every movement has its own,
It's a vogue on the right.
The thing is, Democrats celebrate their bigots.
I will never forget. But to come back to it, in both these cases, for instance, right, the optics until the B-2 bombers were done and a couple of days after, it seemed very clear that Trump stands with Israel in this whole situation. In the India-Pakistan situation, where it is abundantly clear to anybody sitting in any office in the world of any import that Pakistan orchestrated a terrorist attack, we need to give no proof. It has been the history of military sort of strategy that Pakistan's the bad actor here. And then you see Asim Munir running around the White House somehow, and then Trump suddenly talking about...
I get what you're saying.
So,
to the untrained eye,
Sure,
which is a problem, but to the trained eye, following the conclusion of hostilities between Israel and Iran, some of the things he said about Israel are downright nasty.
Yeah.
For example, using the word,
Right.
saying they've been at it for so long they don't know what the fuck they're doing,
Right.
and it will stop now. He literally had a shouting match with Netanyahu.
Right. It seemed
Over the
like they
phone.
were fighting, yeah.
No, it's been reported.
Right.
That the call was Trump screeching. It was a one-way screeching of Trump. Trump was literally screeching at Netanyahu because he said, "You will not bomb Tehran." Netanyahu thought he could get away with it. He sent 52 fighters. They dropped one bomb on a radar site and Trump flew off the handle.
So he abandoned his ally in the middle of the operation.
He didn't abandon.
Huh.
They had always agreed to this,
Right.
that they will meet certain war goals and they will stop it. Netanyahu was probably trying to take, all ceasefires in the Middle East have been notoriously shaky. For the first 3-4 days, there are always violations of the ceasefire that keep happening. Even in the 73 war, when the Yom Kippur war happened, the Israelis hadn't surrounded the Egyptian 3rd or 4th army completely. So they deliberately broke the ceasefire, claiming to be innocent, just so that they could encircle the third army or the fourth army. I forget what.
Right. It's a optics game now. Time pe, right?
Yeah. But no, it's not an optics game. It is a tactical game. They want to, before they disengage, they want as many tactical advantages as they can negotiate away at the table. Instead of giving you something that's mine, I'll give you back the third army, which is anyway yours.
Right. Okay. So it's this bonus that I give you back.
Yeah, exactly. Got it. And I'm giving you what is rightfully yours, but I'm pretending it is my greatness and my Mahanta doing it. Okay, I have more chips. So Trump got really pissed off. Did he do any of that with India?
No, but he continuously refers to this deal we are about to make, and that he solved this with a deal.
So this is the first time. He's done that in the first term as well, saying I will negotiate between India and Pakistan on Kashmir. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but that was just talk.
Now, this is also talk. What makes you think otherwise? He called Modi to the White House. He called him up because he said, I'm sorry, I can't meet you for the G20 because I'm doing stuff. We now know that was because we want to drop bombs on Iran. I'm doing stuff. I'll be happy to host you on a state visit to the White House. Modi said no, because he knew that Asim Munir was in Washington.
Right. So that
but understand,
optic is bad,
the optics you want to believe is that Asim Munir was feted in Washington. Have you seen a single photo come out of Trump with Asim Munir?
Check. Trump with Asim Munir photo.
There is not one.
Okay.
There is not one. You can check as much as you want. There is not one. He was not brought in as a hero. He was brought in as a thief that it is shameful to be seen with you in public. I don't want to be seen with you in public.
How do you know this?
Because they didn't release a photo.
That's why
if Trump is such a credit hog, he should have created all the photos and everything, right? He did not want a single photo to go public.
Fair. Did you find something?
तुम चोर की तरह अंदर आए, तुमको चोर की तरह खिलाया गया, and you were kicked out. Asim Munir was treated in the White House like the fellow who stabbed Saif Ali Khan was treated in the Saif Ali Khan house. No photo, no video, no nothing. Okay. If according to anyone, this is a great PR victory, congratulations to you. Because historically, every time Pakistan gets its nuts cracked, it runs to Washington for help. That is what Nawaz Sharif did during the Kargil crisis. Do you remember? After 1 month of Kargil, Nawaz was so desperate for a ceasefire, he rocked up uninvited to Blair House. He was put up in Blair House, which is the American state guest house, opposite the White House. He had to go beg for meetings every day. He maybe got 1 or 2 meetings. Vajpayee at that time also said, sorry, I'm not coming here. I have to defend my country. I don't have time to come to Washington. At that time, Vajpayee said, F you to Bill Clinton. We are not coming there. You get these fellows to withdraw. And this fellow had to then withdraw. He paid for it with his government. He paid the price for Musharraf's folly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
This time, Shehbaz was very smart. He didn't take credit for anything. So I would put it that Shehbaz made this fellow field marshal so that this fellow gets the credit
and the
backlash for it.
Tu rakh le.
Shehbaz learnt from Nawaz Sharif.
Interesting.
Okay. And the moment you're summoned like a bloody coolie boy, you rock up in Washington to serve at the White House.
I have a very interesting tweet.
Now.
Please finish.
No photo. Yeah, when you are proud to be with someone, you put up a photo. You don't.
Yeah.
Why is there no photo? Why is nobody asking that question?
Got it.
It was a shameful meeting. Trump did not want to publicize it. Trust me, Asim Munir would have wanted nothing more than to have a photo of him shaking
Trump's hand.
And you know when the last time this happened was when Bill Clinton visited Pakistan in 1999. He did not want to be seen. So all the cameras, because he blamed Musharraf for India going nuclear, he blamed Musharraf for Kargil. He decided, yes, it may be destabilizing that I visit India. At that time, India and Pakistan had been dehyphenated. He went, met Musharraf. There was no picture of that meeting. There was no picture of them shaking hands. It was done like you visit a brothel. Nobody should know. No photo evidence should exist.
Yeah, I think there is a huge difference between the trained and the untrained eye, right? Like as somebody who follows this, I cannot connect these dots in any similar way. And I'm sure there are variations. If I talk to another expert, they'll have a variation of this, they'll have a variation of that. But to the untrained eye, you're like, इन्होंने ऐसा क्या deal crack किया है पीछे?
And you think this hasn't gone down with the core commanders in Pakistan?
As in?
You invited Asim Munir and you've humiliated him by not taking a photo.
Acha, so they see it. And he loses.
Of course they see
he
it.
loses perception
Everybody
power.
in the Pakistani parliament, except the deranged ones, see it. There are lots of deranged ones in the Pakistani parliament, by the way.
I see you're very motivated to make a point today.
Yes. But, anybody who's got half a brain in Pakistan, and there are several people in Pakistan who are quite smart, they all see it for what it is. This field marshalship of his is the biggest admission of failure you can get. Assume they're right and they shot down whatever they claim, 6, 7, 10, 100 aircraft of ours on the first day. The person who should have been promoted was the Air Chief Marshal, no? Last I checked, the Chief of Army Staff doesn't command the Air Force.
Because if that is the only victory supposedly you had, then give the benefit to the right actor in that case, right? Yeah. There was a very interesting tweet that showed up, and this will tie back into the Israel-Iran conversation. I'm going to send it to you. One sec. Himanshu, isko na ek bar pull up kar. I'm sure you've seen this guy. Himanshu, dekh. Check kar, open kar ispe. Do you know this guy, Aravind? It's an anonymous account. Tweets on geopolitical matters. I'll show you. So it's an anonymous account. Nobody knows who he is, and very interesting tweets. But he tweeted something, and he will kind of retweet this. So open the retweet.
Him.
Open the retweet. This is done on June 16th, which is like about 10-12 days ago. आज 27th है ना? हाँ, नीचे जा. और ये सबसे पहले open source intel खोल. So breaking, this is from June 16th. Senior Iranian official Mohsin Rai claims Pakistan want Iran. If Israel drops a nuclear bomb on Tehran, we'll respond with a nuclear strike on Israel. Now go back. And this is a tweet he put out. This statement by Pakistan means the US wants to halt Israel-Iran conflict immediately against Israel's wishes, having used Israel to achieve its own aim. So let me explain. And then...
Pakistan... Okay, this I disagree with. And I disagree with this...
Are you speaking the mic, please?
I'm sorry. This is something I disagree with. Like, Arvind's a very dear friend of mine.
You know this guy?
I know him. He's very perspicacious. The thing is, he hasn't been to those sit-down meetings with the Americans and Pakistanis. We know the extent. We know the frustrations of the Americans with the Pakistanis. We've had lots of classified briefings about this by the Americans. We've also discussed this with lots of Pakistan strategic force commanders over single malts. They don't touch pork, but they drink copious quantities of single malt, by the way. Where they have explained to us in great detail what the command and control structure is. Make no mistake, the Pakistani nuclear arsenal is the Pakistani nuclear arsenal.
It's not American.
It is not American.
Which is what Arvind is claiming here.
Arvind is mistaken in this score.
Sure, he's also reading between lines.
Because he values his anonymity.
Right, sure.
Anyway, the thing is, in this case, Arvind is wrong.
Okay.
We have seen the frustration. The Americans have done a lot of classified briefings for us.
Right.
And off the record conversations where, they've told us all the frustrations of... They have a fairly good idea of what Pakistan is doing. They trained the trainers for the personnel reliability program, because this was at a time when Pakistan was threatening suitcase bombs. Then they stopped threatening suitcase bombs because the Americans came up with a plan B and said, if you threaten these suitcase bombs and, accidentally on purpose giving it to terrorists, we will come in and we will take away your nukes. And there's nothing you can do about it. And they're like, oh shit. That was meant to be a threat for India, but it ended up that America felt more threatened by it. And they stopped all that talk of suitcase bombs.
Interesting.
Okay. There were all kinds of checks and balances that the Pakistanis introduced by themselves. First, they have a radicalization vetting program. If you're a radical, they will not even be allowed to enter the program. They'll go interview your family. If your family is radical also, you will not be allowed to enter the nuclear program and things. There are steps they have taken to convince the Americans that these bombs will not fall into the wrong hands. And that includes, in India, it is a two-stage process, which is the warhead is held separately and the missile, the delivery mechanism, it can be a missile, whatever, is a gravity bomb, whatever, is held separately. It is the warhead is always held by the Atomic Energy Commission. The Prime Minister gives the order to the National Security Advisor. The National Security Advisor orders the fusing of the two devices. Okay.
Got it.
It is then fused. And even then, the Prime Minister has to go ahead even at that point for the missile to take off, okay, or launch. In Pakistan, it goes a step further. The bomb is held by one section of the PAEC, Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission. The fuse for the bomb, the detonation trigger, is held by another person. They are never co-located. India at least co-locates the fuse and this thing.
Right.
It is the code that has to be relayed. Here, it is not even that. And basically, that bomb is designed in a way that without the fuse, you can't bypass it.
Sure. Got it.
Okay. So if there is this very famous scene, I don't know if it get a copyright strike from Broken Arrow, the John Travolta, Christian Slater movie.
Actually, no.
Okay. There is a very famous scene from it where this guy, John Travolta is the villain. He calls back and says, oh, the bomb cores are exposed. They're going to detonate.
From pure exposure.
So he claims, which is wrong.
Right.
Because weapons grade uranium has such a huge half-life period. You can literally sleep on a nuclear bomb for 90 years and not get cancer.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So
how do you know this stuff, bro? That's so weird.
I do nuclear.
Yeah, you have this unique weapons knowledge that wow, okay.
As opposed to a lot of unenriched uranium, which is actually very dangerous. You'll contract cancer in no time.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. There's the Mayapuri incident where this fellow thought he had cobalt, which the Delhi University lab or JNU lab, I forget what, had thrown out. And what had happened there was he thought it was a sapphire.
And he had cobalt.
And he slept with it below cobalt 90. He slept with it under his pillow. Within 24 hours, he had radiation burn. Within 48 hours, it had completely wrecked one side of his brain. 3 hospitals in Delhi couldn't diagnose it till it went to the radiology ward of AIIMS, where it was finally diagnosed. It set a huge manhunt in a place to recover that cobalt 90. It was a nightmare.
Whoa.
So imagine 3 hospitals or 2 hospitals didn't even know what a radiation burn looked like.
Whoa.
And that is civil radioactive material that you give to a student lab, a bachelor's degree or a master's degree lab. That will not work for weapons.
Right.
Because the material will decay so quick. You want a nuclear weapon to last for hundreds of years.
Right.
It is an extremely stable form of uranium or plutonium that you use, which will not kill you. Okay. Now, what ends up happening is some of the materials around it to trigger either, so there are many types. There is implosion, where because you collapse material onto itself, uranium or mostly plutonium onto itself, it creates the chain reaction. There is gun type assembly, where you destabilize the uranium core through firing atoms at it.
Yes.
The third is thermonuclear, where you either have a gun type or usually an implosion primary device, which then sets off the
main device.
Hydrogen contained, it ignites it literally, and that becomes a thermonuclear. That is a fusion. But remember, all fusion devices have to first have fission.
Right.
Okay. It is fission that triggers the fusion. Right. So there are lots of permutations, combinations to this. So, this uranium, it was not going to kill anyone. Sorry, what context I lost the train of thought.
You were talking about how you were saying that Pakistan keeps its fuses and warheads separate.
Right. So Pakistan is notorious for sleeping with everyone and screwing everyone over. There isn't anybody they've slept with that they haven't screwed over. The Chinese, they didn't let them properly do the Pakistan-China economic corridor, which is why China is still very pissed off with them. Iran, they've played all kinds. Last year, Iran and Pakistan were throwing missiles at each other.
Yeah, they don't get along, generally speaking.
Do you actually... Now, I know these generals, they're like, bhai, I've literally sat with a former, I'm not going to tell you who, a former Pakistani army chief who told me, yaar, if you give us Kashmir, the bond between us will be so strong. If Pakistan threatens you, we will launch nuclear missiles on China. If China threatens you, we will launch nuclear missiles on China. So it wasn't just this fellow who got told this. I have been told this by a former chief of army staff.
Or a former chief? Which one?
A former chief of army staff of Pakistan.
Okay.
That if we returned Kashmir to them and bhaichara came between the two countries, Pakistan would be willing to die for India to protect India and launch a nuclear missile at China.
When were you speaking with Musharraf?
Not Musharraf. Who told you it was Musharraf?
I don't know. Just catch the reaction in his face later.
No, you're not tricking me in this.
Bro!
But
we've
done a lot of these nuclear simulations and track twos. Mostly we don't do track twos. We are not trying to find peace. We're trying to find each other's nuclear threshold.
Got it.
So this is not the first time they've made this promise. What was the AQ Khan network? The AQ Khan network, Abdul Qadir Khan network, was the father of their bomb.
Yes.
Was basically promising this to every country. Actual promising and actual delivering. Even there they screwed people over. They gave them defective reactors. They gave them incomplete plans and things like that. They wanted the money from selling, but not to act for them to actually get it.
These B-52s, B-2s?
B-2s.
These B-2s, bro, they're beautiful machines to look at.
They're beautiful machines, but we need to understand they can only operate they are not supersonic, they are subsonic.
Okay.
Now understand, stealth is not full spectrum stealth. Now assume you're a stealth fighter. Okay. The older the radar, the better it is at detecting stealth, very surprisingly.
Okay.
But they are so there is L band, S band and X band. Now assume we are playing piñata. ठीक है? तेरा चश्मा दे एक second. Okay, this is we're doing piñata. You have.
मैं पहना दूंगा भाई.
तो ये I can't see now. Okay. L band radar is a stealth bomber coming and I am doing this. While playing the piñata, I am doing this.
Right.
Okay. S band is I'm sensing somebody is here, so I'm not doing this anymore. I am doing this. Okay.
Got it.
X band is what a blind artist, there are lots of blind sculptors and things like that. What they do, idhara, put my hand to your face. I'm feeling up to see where your eyebrows are, how your nose is, in order to produce that sculpture.
Got it.
So each of these radars operates at a different band. Now, usually it is, we know there are lots of older radars and some new ones that can pick up the stealth bomber B-2 coming in. The problem is because it is S-band and X-band optimized. You say there's a stealth bomber over UP. First of all, you don't know at what altitude that stealth bomber is. UP is a huge area. Your fighter is only equipped with an X-band, maybe at best an S-band. You can't search the whole of UP for it. You're not going to find it. One thing you can detect a stealth bomber with is, if you're fairly close enough to it, it is the infrared emission of the engine, because all engines are hot. They're burning hot fuel at very high temperatures. Right. You have to be over it. You have to be within line of sight of that heat. All your thermal sensors need to be extremely sensitive to detect it, because there's heavy suppression of that heat also going on. The thing is, the entire kill chain never comes together. If a B-2 is ever shot down, it will be sheer fluke that one fighter flew over, saw the infrared or came close enough that it appeared. See, once you're close enough, an X-band, no matter how much X-band stealthing you do, the X-band will pick it up. It's just a question of sheer size and distance, okay? If a B-2 is shot down, it will be through sheer dumb luck that somebody came close enough to it. That said, to prevent sheer dumb luck, because in many cases what can happen is normal fighters flying will be able to see you. They may be able to see your infrared within about 25 to 30 kilometers. Okay. Right. To do that, it can only operate in airspace that has been heavily sanitized.
Got it.
The B-2s could not have gone in the way they did had they not had a fighter escort and had they not had the Israelis take out the Iranian Air Force and Iranian air defenses on day one.
Samjha.
Okay. So it's a magnificent machine. You have to understand its weaknesses. So, when we say in India we need a long-range strategic bomber, bhai, are you able to project your air power? Are you able to send your Sukhois or Mirages or whatever to that distance in order to accompany it? Because it is never going to travel alone. Right. Traveling alone, it is sitting duck. It can't fly over 850 kilometers per hour. So understand, by the time that bomber flying over UP, say it enters from the Bihar border and has to drop a bomb over Delhi, it will take as much time as a Boeing 737 from Akasa Air or a A320 of Indigo to come to Delhi, which is about an hour and 20 minutes to fly over the whole of UP. In that hour and 20 minutes, Mirages and Sukhois flying at twice the speed of sound would have already done very significant physical scans of the area. Very dangerous. So unless you've shot down all the Sukhois and Mirages, you will not be sending the B-2 bomber in.
Got it. I get it. But even as a toy, like purely from a male
It's sexy,
appreciation, it's
it's a very sexy.
It's a proper wing as an aircraft. There's no wings to it.
It's called a blended wing. And like there is no modern wing design. We've discussed this, haven't we? There is no modern flying object today that wasn't invented by the Germans in the 1920s and 30s.
Really?
The very first blended wing so-called stealth bomber was the Hortens Ho. Just search a B2 ke badle Hortens, Hortens, space HO space stealth. Search there.
Whoa. That's some cool
Hortens
looking
Ho
Nazi
229.
flights.
Yeah.
है ना? ये Luftwaffe है?
Luftwaffe.
हाँ. Whoa, this looks cool, bro.
है ना? This was the very first blended wing designed to fly. And notice it had lots of stealth features because that, click on the first photo.
Oh, this is designed in the middle
See,
1900s.
what this did was 1930s.
Whoa.
And this big round cone inside the engine,
Theek.
it used to shield a lot of the engine revolution from, because when radar waves are coming, it is that rotating blades that. So it was fairly stealth. It wasn't a fully stealth. This was done more for the stability and the range that a blended wing can achieve over a normal platform. But this was the very first example of a blend. Basically, let's put it this way. There is no wing form flying today that the Germans hadn't developed and perfected before the Second World War.
You were saying that there is...
Before or during the Second World War.
I have a feeling that this B-2 or for that matter, any of the other planes that we see from America are not even their best products. Like they've kept their best products hidden to use later. Like,
Not really.
You don't think so? They're not trying to provide military intelligence in case...
No, you know why? This actually is a very big philosophical difference between, say, the Chinese and the Americans. When the Chinese say they are going to attack, almost certainly they are not going to attack. Why? Because they believe that an attack should never be announced. It is when the Chinese say we have peaceful intentions, you should be very, very scared of the Chinese.
Right.
Americans, on the other hand, believe that a show of force will coerce you into submission. So when they are going to attack, they say we are going to attack and they plant their aircraft carriers outside. They believe that revealing their weapons creates deterrence.
Interesting.
The more you reveal about your military, the more it deters countries from going rogue.
Okay.
So they make it very, very public. So Trump already showed you the F-47, or I think the F-47, which is the 6th generation fighter. It is what is going to follow the F-35.
As I'm approaching my 30s, I have taken a unique interest in planes, and
I had it ever since I was a kid, by the way.
what a toy.
So the F-47, that is the image that Trump displayed.
Show. Isko full screen kar. Oh. Why did China and Russia do nothing about the Israel-Iran situation? Why were they not involved when Iran...
What do you think they can do?
Can they not provide... I mean,
Bhai, have you seen Russia की क्या हालत हो रखी है यूक्रेन में?
Bro, कैसे but?
What Israel managed to achieve in 8 hours over Iran, Russia hasn't managed to achieve in 3.5 years.
What the hell? How does that make sense though?
It makes perfect sense. I've told you this before. Russia is trapped in the 1980s. The last innovation that happened in Russia was in the 1980s. Even the Sukhoi 57 is based on 1980s technology. You know why? Because 1980s is when the digital revolution started up. The manufacturing revolution lasted till the 1980s. 1980s is when the digital revolution started up. 1990s is when the information revolution started up. Because the USSR collapsed in 1990, they were in huge turmoil for the 80s, so they never really entered the digital revolution. In 1990, when they collapsed, all their smartest and best scientists
left.
You can't blame them. It wasn't. Are they going to look after their kids? People don't realize, like it became 10,000 rubles to the dollar and things like that.
Oh, wow.
And their salary used to be 2,000-3,000 rubles.
Okay.
So you couldn't even buy a sausage for your monthly salary. Forget sausage. You couldn't even buy a cauliflower for your monthly salary or a cabbage. Okay. They had to sell off their possessions and things like that. I know nuclear scientists who had to sell off their possessions. So all the technical genius that Russia had built up, and it had undeniable technical genius, they all migrated abroad.
So they can actually not win against Ukraine. Like they're not able to right now.
Look, they'll win ultimately because, this is a question of logistics. When it becomes a drag, slam here, slam there war, it's like nobody thought World War I could be won because of trench warfare. But ultimately, Germany and Austria, the central powers, were industrially much weaker than France, Britain, America combined. So they won. Even though they didn't, right till the end, they didn't have the tactical brilliance to break out of. They were doing the same thing over and over again, which is what is happening out here. There is minor tactical innovation, but nothing much. So Ukraine will most probably Russia will win. Not 100%, but most probably Russia will win for a different set of reasons, that they're able to do great quantity. But this was Iran-Israel was a quality operation.
Sure.
And Israel achieved in 8 hours what Russia hasn't been able to achieve in 3.5 years. Today, between Beijing and Washington, if there is one country that deserves to be called a superpower, it is not Berlin, it is not Paris, it is not London, it is not Moscow, it is Tel Aviv. They have achieved things that the Russians couldn't achieve, that the Brits couldn't achieve, the French couldn't achieve, the Germans certainly not.
And why is China so inactive on this? Why, is there not a natural
China
opposition?
is shitting bricks at the moment, bro.
They really are.
It's been a double whammy for the Chinese because they realized that all the air defense systems they sold to Pakistan, first of all, did not work. Whatever we wanted to hit, we hit.
Yeah.
So their air defense, very comfortably. So their air defenses failed quite spectacularly. And whatever offensive missiles they'd sold the Pakistanis, like drones or whatever, did not work because not one of them managed to hit their target on our side.
Sure.
First, the Chinese were shitting bricks about that. Remember, all those Chinese stocks rose when the Pakistanis started saying we shot down 25 Rafales, 100 Rafales, whatever, on the first day. And then they plattered out and collapsed. Okay. The second has been this. They're looking at Iran, which they'd invested a lot in terms of supplying weaponry, in terms of supplying missile know-how, in terms of supplying nuclear know-how. A lot of things they had invested in Iran. Iran got a lot of Chinese weapons. Not one thing worked. Now they are looking at their core interest, Taiwan, which
is on the verge.
Is almost as developed as Israel, in some cases much more so. So for example, Taiwan chip manufacturers are way ahead of anything Israel can do. So in certain things, the Taiwanese are way ahead of the Israelis. They're looking at Taiwan saying, oh my God, if Israel is able to do this to Iran, when we do our invasion to reunite Taiwan, they're going to absolutely hammer the living daylights out of us. They've finally begun to realize now. Sindoor made them realize how crappy some of their weapons were. This Operation Rising Lion made them realize that they're not going to be able to capture Taiwan.
Really?
Yeah. So you understand, this is Xi Jinping's dream has completely cracked within a month. Really? First, in May, he realized his own inadequacies. In June, he had all his inadequacies confirmed.
Oh, okay.
So his big plan has come to naught. It's had psychologically, it's been a devastating impact on China. It's been a public humiliation of Russia that a country of 9 million, that is probably, Moscow is bigger than Israel in terms of population. Okay. The size of Israel is Moscow plus suburbs.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at greater Moscow area,
it's like 3 hours north to south, 45 minutes left to right.
So in Indian terms, it is less than half the size of Haryana.
Yeah, right.
And Iran is half the size of India. that a country that is smaller in population, or maybe the same in population to say Bangalore or Ahmedabad, with a size smaller than Haryana, is able to completely defeat the air defenses and air force of a country half the size of India, with a population 10 times its size. How do you think that's gone down in Moscow?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Oh. Weird time.
And the S-400, the S-300 failed to perform. The Tor missile failed to perform. The Tungushka missile, Pantsir, whatever you call it, failed to perform. So all the layered air defenses they had, the short range, the medium range, the long range, all of them systematically failed.
You think there's going to be another flare-up soon?
Of course, guaranteed.
Where? In the Middle East?
No, here Iran only, because the Iranians will try to access those facilities and they're going to bomb.
No, but what do you think? Like, for instance, all these hot zones along the Russian-Ukrainian border, Israel and the Middle East, India,
Look,
Pakistan.
I think Ukraine is a frozen war, which doesn't mean the Ukrainians won't pull off some spectacular attacks like they did on those Russian bombers, right? The drone attacks, which was truly brilliant. But, you know, my issue always is tactical brilliance has to serve a strategic purpose.
Right, sure.
Don't do something brilliant just for the sake of showing off when it doesn't achieve anything.
Yeah, don't flex.
Let's see.
Right. You think Taiwan and this sort of South China Sea, it's also a hot spot. You know, America's been eyeing that property. Like, it just seems from an untrained lens, all these flare-ups keep happening, and they happen one after the other is done, or the other is old news or something like that. Should we expect more? You think 2025, 2026 is going to be more bombs, more rockets?
So, you know, all the astrologers are predicting it.
Yeah, right.
That 25, 26 is the 84-year cycle of Uranus, of the 7th planet.
Sure.
And every time that happens, there is major systems collapse and war.
And you believe that?
If you'd asked me the same question about 5-6 years back, I would have said utter crock. But something is heading in that direction because there are too many things happening simultaneously, which is usually the sign to a systems collapse. It will take us 10, 15 years after it is over for us to understand
why it was happening.
Why it happened, logically, not astrologically. I mean, people can't even agree right now as to the causes of World War I and World War II.
Sure. They say that there's a Serbian guy who shot their king.
See, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. It would have possibly happened in a different way, even if Archduke Franz Ferdinand and Sophie, Countess Sophie, had not been killed.
Right.
But it had to happen. There was already too much tension that had built up.
And the pin would have been whatever, but the balloon would have burst. Yeah.
Right. Same with World War II. Okay, same with World War II. But it's when you're going through it, it's very difficult to perceive why. It sometimes becomes obvious after.
You don't think there's going to be a World War III? Or at least it won't be labeled as that.
I'll tell you why it won't be World War III, because you don't have colonies.
You don't have colonies?
Colonies are much more required. So, for example, the only reason India entered World War I and World War II is because the Viceroy declared on our behalf.
Right, sure.
We didn't have a choice in it.
Right.
Today, if America bombs Russia, or Russia bombs America, or China bombs America, or America bombs China, हमारा क्या लेना देना?
Right.
We'll say, this is not the time for war. This is the time for peace.
Why is war such a circus act these days? Like, you see how this is happening? It's almost theatrical. यहाँ से bomb मारा, वहाँ पे intercept हो गया, bomb निकले, but कहीं गिरे नहीं. And I'm not trying to trivialize it, but it seems like it happens for a few days, and then both countries run to the people like, जीत गए, and Trump बीच में आके, नहीं, मैंने peace करवा दिया, What is this? What is this pattern? Is this how wars have been before I was born?
It's always been this. So the first time war got, how do I put this, glamorized, was the 1990 invasion of Kuwait.
Okay.
And that was when CNN got a heck of a lot of ground access. And, you know, nobody wanted to go watch movies during that period. They invested money in dish antennas. I don't know if you were old enough to remember.
I remember the privatization of it, na dish TV वगैरह. हाँ.
No, dish TV is all small. These are these small antennas.
Right.
In those days, we had these 12-foot antennas that had to be put up on the roof.
Oh, you mean those sticks?
On the roof with huge, looks like an inverted umbrella with a thing pointing out in the center and things like that.
Got it.
And that is what you needed. You needed a minimum of a 12-foot antenna to receive CNN properly. Okay. And you only had about 12 channels coming in. One of those channels was Star. This thing. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
One of the channels coming in was Star. And there we used to watch Bold and the Beautiful. We're like, oh my God, this is a daily soap opera. How cool. Do they make this every day?
Yeah. Like, we were used to Doordarshan and having, one serial per week. This was like every day, every afternoon from 2 p.m. to 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. was Bold and the Beautiful. And 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. was Santa Barbara. Like, so cool, bro. Awesome. And we were watching that kind of crap. But we all got dished these big dishes. They were super expensive in those days, right? So what used to happen was in all these government colonies, every government colony had a club or something. They all bought it for the club. Pooled in, got it for the club. And we used to go watch CNN every evening to see who America was bombing in Iraq at that particular time. And we used to watch it for hours. There was there were videotapes where there were markets where you could get videotapes. We used to go to this, where Fujiya restaurant is in Malcha Marg?
Sure.
Okay. Right next to that used to be our video parlor. You had to go get VCR cassettes. And every day he would have the past day's recording of CNN for 3 hours and 180. There used to be 180 tapes, 120 tapes, 3 hours, 2 hours, and 1 hour, 1.5 hour tapes. So we used to get those and watch it if we had missed anything. Okay. And I remember I had exams or something at that time. So for 6-7 days, I couldn't watch. And after that, I sat and watched the entire thing on tape. Right? So it was even then. Today, what has happened is everybody has become a content creator. This has made you a content creator. Today, the quality of imagery you get on an average mobile phone is higher than what a huge bloody TV crew camera could in those days. Much more mobile. You can get to places. Everybody. Is there a ballistic missile falling at Sirsa? You don't need to send a reporter. You don't need to have a stringer in Sirsa. Local Sirsa people are watching and they've captured it.
Sure.
Right. So it's now not only become a spectator sport, it's become a participatory sport where everybody can become a content creator.
I follow. That is from the consumer side.
Yes.
I understand that people have an instinct to almost watch this warlike phenomena as reality TV, right? Like
it is reality TV
in a very brutal way. It is true because I don't know if you saw the memes on Twitter about monitoring the situation, and I was hooked. Like I was for the last 2 months, I'm hooked to Twitter, always constantly refreshing and so on. And actually, to your compliment, watching a lot of what you were saying because you have an interesting way of explaining yourself that involves enough expletives that it makes for interesting content. Now, not to get distracted, my original point is more to the effect of how governments are handling it. Like, for instance, the last strike that happened in Qatar was obviously for show. Was obviously a show of strength. The US was probably informed, get your people out. Now, you see, it's a theatrical performance for their own population to be satiated and be like,
it's so that everybody can claim victory at the end.
Right.
Okay. There's a problem with that. The Muslim world is very famous for declaring victory after severe defeats. They declared victory after, failing to destroy Israel in 48-49. They declared victory, moral victory after the 65 war, after a 67 war, after they got hammered. They declared victory after the 73 war, again, moral victory after they got hammered. After 67, this man, Gamal Abdel Nasser, he organized all these street protests to prevent him from resigning. Because everybody knew he had been cooked. But You
said cooked or cooked? Cooked. You never know with world leaders these days.
Yeah, look, he lost the entire Sinai. Jordan lost the West Bank.
You're talking about the ex-president, Prime Minister of Egypt.
President of Egypt.
Right.
And he was a horrible dictator. People don't realize this. He was a nasty, nasty fellow. And he basically got all the crowds out to say, oh, aap hamare papa ho. You are the father of the nation. If you go, it is like losing. And so they all declared moral victory and decided he could continue. Okay. His successor Sadat started the 73 war. Initially, it was quite a success. But within 2 days, that success turned and it turned into a complete disaster. Even bigger disaster. People don't realize the 73 was an even bigger disaster for the Arabs than the 67 war was. Israel lost more aircraft in the 67 war, which is counted as a victory, than it did in the 73 war. The Israelis, on the other hand, it doesn't matter how much you win. Everything they classify as a defeat. Right? Because their thing is, last time we lost 20,000 people. This time we lost 100 people. Not good enough. It needs to come down to 0 or it needs to become minus 200.
But this time they've declared victory.
They have.
Right?
Netanyahu has declared victory.
Yes.
Every war is followed by an assessment report.
Right.
And the assessment report is always negative.
Sure.
Without exception. It has always been negative.
Yeah,
You know why? Because they are great. We did a great job now, but it's not good enough. We need to do even better the next time.
Sure.
One of the reasons they're so spectacular in what they do is because they never rest on their laurels. They're like, where do we go to from here? Plus, the military gets more money if you keep saying defeat, defeat, defeat.
Sure.
So, this is their
MO.
I think 67 is the only one which is officially considered a victory. Usme bhi bahut sare log.
This is a 6-day war or something.
The 7-day war.
7-day war.
And that is,
This is when Nasser was compromised because his son-in-law was a Mossad agent.
Yeah, basically.
Right. So they knew Egypt's plans and they hammered them before Egypt could do anything.
Exactly.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. Great story, by the way. If somebody's interested. Proper, true spy story that you should know. This is Mossad at its peak, infiltrating the office of the president of their enemy country by getting an agent to marry his daughter. That's a story.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And mind you, they've done the same thing several times. The entire thing where the Iranians set up a counterintelligence unit to look at Israeli infiltration of the IRGC and nuclear facilities. It turned out almost every single person who was in charge of that investigation was a Mossad agent.
That's some spying, bro.
That is serious spying.
Yeah, that's like real intelligence.
This is what a professional country does, unlike, say, Morarji Desai or Inder Kumar Gujral, who as a peace gesture destroy all your intelligence assets on the
I've heard of that.
See, it is shocking unprofessionalism.
Can you tell that story? Because I've heard, is that a common story? Do people know this?
Yeah. Everybody knows it.
No, I don't think so. I think you are underestimating how few people really know this.
No. So, they believed. See, a covert ability is just that. It's covert. You don't have to use it. Just because you have spies doesn't mean you have to use it. Doesn't mean you hand them over on a bloody silver platter to the enemy to show intent.
So I've heard of two stories. I've heard of a story where one specific prime minister of our country was shown how spies were being trained by RAW and he just dismantled the program after looking at it.
See, with Morarji Desai, it was more explicable because the way state agencies had been abused and misused during the emergency. He had a great
fear of sorts, huh?
Contempt.
Sure.
Of anything that was off the books and off the record. Everything had to be justiciable. Everything had to be recorded and things like that. And raw didn't. Because remember, a lot of the atrocities which were carried out during the emergency, most probably Indira Gandhi and Sanjay Gandhi did not know about. There were people taking out their personal khundak on their personal angst or whatever. They wanted to grab somebody's property, so they declare somebody anti-national and go after their property and shit like that. These things cannot be controlled. Generally, you're a low control state. India does not have control over its policemen can beat up people.
And nothing happens. Sure, I get it.
Right. So how do you expect the prime minister to know every beating that happened everywhere and things like that? So Morarji Desai was different. Still not very good. Okay. But इसमें क्या होता है कि how are you so unprofessional about it? Intelligence isn't your personal whim or fantasy. It is a national fancy, It is a national asset. You can't just give it away for goodwill. Who the hell gave you the permission to give it away?
I have a question to ask you. You finished on that point, right?
Yeah.
Pull up a video, go to YouTube or Twitter, look up P. Chidambaram nuclear speech. That is a very interesting thing for a lot of people who are only conscious of their political realities starting the 2000s, let's just say, right? Because it's, I think, 1998, 1999, sometime around this time, 1997.
That's very long. Go to Political Kida and check his Twitter timeline. He's got the 2-minute long effective parts of that speech.
Political Kida. Now,
Kida, K-I-D-A. K-I-D-A.
K-I-D-A, bhai.
Not that one, not that one.
Not Kida, bro. It's Kida. Go, niche ra. This one.
This one, yeah.
Now, help me understand this. Wait, before you play this, help me understand this without, genuinely help me empathize with this position, because this makes no sense to me. My hypothesis is either the opposition politics in India is largely convenient, no matter the party, no matter the time. They just have to oppose everything the ruling party is doing. Or my hypothesis is that India lives in this Gandhian fantasy world and does not understand the reality of its own situation, the reality of the geopolitical armed conflict, or where the world is heading.
So
Let's watch this first. Yes, please.
Having invented a threat, the Prime Minister, backed by his Home Minister, comes and says, here is our nuclear bomb, beware the whole world, India now is a conquering nation. This is the worst service that you can do for India.
Actually,
what you have done,
there's a smaller video from this.
Create an axis,
I think,
as my friend Mr. Natwar Singh said, between the United States, China and Pakistan. China was no threat to India. The last war with China was fought 36 years ago. And the circumstances under which that war began and concluded are still surrounded in controversy. The last war with Pakistan was fought 27 years ago. Only in the last year, I was present when Prime Minister Gujral engaged Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, in 2 meetings, in New York and in Edinburgh. He engaged President Clinton in a dialogue, at the end of which President Clinton said, I understand your concerns, and I will visit you, and we will continue to talk about it. He engaged Prime Minister Tony Blair in Edinburgh, and when there was so much talk about Britain mediating, thanks to a junior minister's thoughtless remarks, Prime Minister Tony Blair quite candidly said Britain had no intention of mediating between India and Pakistan, and this was a bilateral issue. I was present when these dialogues took place, and I'm sure when he intervenes in the debate tomorrow, he will throw more light. In our judgment, and I say this with firm conviction, China was no threat on the 18th of March. China was no threat on the 19th of March. China was no threat on the 8th of April. China was no threat on the 11th or the 13th of May. You have invented a threat in China.
Can you go down? Did it capture what you were looking for it to capture?
Yeah. So let me explain this. I think this particular part of the speech has been taken out of context. And I'll tell you why. Chidambaram is no man's fool. This is the guy who essentially started up the Balochistan insurgency and ran it much more successfully than this government has done. Chidambaram's point here, as I understood it, was that you should have never named China publicly. It is not that China was not a threat. I could be wrong, but that is what I had understood when I heard this speech at that point of time. He certainly, because Vajpayee wrote to Bill Clinton, who was always an unreliable. He was as unreliable politically as he was sexually. In that case, every country around him was essentially Hillary Clinton being cheated on.
Love it.
Yeah,
exceptional
basically.
Sense of humor.
And nobody knows. I mean, almost every single one of the monologues he used to give from the White House, there were 2 people. It's just that the second person wasn't visible out there.
Okay.
But
yes. Go on.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, to that man, Vajpayee shouldn't have written that the rationale for the test was China. This was something to be said. It was not something to be written. At least that's how I've heard Chidambaram explain it in private at different things. Could be wrong. Maybe he said what he did. But China, let us be very clear, has always been a threat. Okay? Now, I also want you to understand that the person who made all the preparations for the test was not Atal Bihari Vajpayee. It was Narasimha Rao. It was Narasimha Rao when Chidambaram was very much in the government, was in the Cabinet Committee on Security and acquiesced to those tests. It is just that the American satellite overflew our testing range and they came and presented, I think at that time the ambassador was Frank Wisner. He came and presented the evidence to Narasimha Rao and Narasimha Rao called off the test. Because India at that point was in no position to go test because remember 1991 was an economic crisis. He would just come out of it 4 or 5 years earlier. He wasn't willing to test the waters at that time. But because the Americans showed us the satellite intel, we have a satellite program of our own. Our scientists knew exactly. ISRO talked to AEC, Atomic Energy Commission, and between the two of them, they figured out exactly what the time frame was when these satellites would pass over. So when we tested in 98, we knew what time not to do the preparation. So we knew exactly how to hide the preparations for the test, which we did, right? But Vajpayee was just carrying on Narasimha Rao's policy. This is just a policy speech for the sake of a policy speech.
I see. So this is presentation.
But there is something very worrying out here. It could have probably been worded much better because this particular speech shows Chidambaram to be quite naive and gullible.
Right, very pacifist.
About international security, which unfortunately has become the reality of the Congress party today.
I see what you mean.
Neither was Rajiv Gandhi like this, neither was Indira. Rajiv Gandhi and Indira Gandhi were consummate players of international realpolitik.
Got it.
I know for a fact this is not Chidambaram.
Got it.
He is
This is not his private views.
This is absolutely not his private views. I can assure you of that. This man is absolutely cold-blooded when it comes to killing the enemy. He wouldn't think twice about launching a nuclear weapon.
I see what you mean.
Okay.
I see what you mean.
This is performative for the public.
Right.
There is also the issue that in this country, security is not taught to politicians. Security is an unsexy subject. In the West, if you want a politician to give attention to your pet project, you just add security. This is why we started calling things environmental security, water security, human security. You add security to it, immediately the politician takes notice of it. Why? Because you've achieved all your roti, kapda, makan goals. You're no longer, people aren't going hungry, people have healthcare, they have houses. Nobody is on the brink of, nobody is going to die untreated. Nobody is going to die of starvation. Nobody is living without a house unless you choose to be homeless and things like that, which people do sometimes. That isn't happening. So security is this thing. Here you have much more pressing concerns. 200,000 people die every year in car crashes in India. That is, every year more people die in India from car crashes and TB. 200,000 people in car crashes, 200,000 people in tuberculosis, or maybe even more, maybe 300,000-400,000. That is more than all your wars put together so far.
Interesting.
Maybe even for the last 100 years, you haven't lost, even in World War I and II combined. We didn't lose as many Indian troops as we lose every year in
car crashes and TB.
Yeah.
Right. Sure.
Okay. You add 3 years, add 10 years worth of car crashes and TB. You've lost more people than you did during the Bengal famine. So you want to go after the British for the Bengal famine? Sure, be my guest. But then accept responsibility for all the car crashes for which you're doing absolutely nothing and the TB for which you're doing absolutely nothing. Okay. Now, I can tell you this is not Chidambaram. Indira Gandhi was very clever and calculating. She rejected her father's pacifist views, his Fabian, his honestly quite naive views of the world. This sounds like the speech was written by Nehru.
I can see that.
And it is not Chidambaram. Because Chidambaram's mentors were Indira Gandhi and especially Rajiv Gandhi, who were not like that. Indira Gandhi then ordered the testing of the nuclear device. Why did she order it? Because in 71, she saw China was threatening to invade us. The Americans sent their 7th Fleet against us into the Bay of Bengal. And she's like, you know what? You are not going to threaten me next time. I am going to go nuclear. She called it very euphemistically, peaceful nuclear explosive. How is a nuclear explosion?
So you're saying we had a nuclear test in the 70s?
74.
Ah, okay. So you already enriched uranium by then?
Yeah. Look, technically, if we wanted, we could have gone nuclear even by about 64, 65.
Really?
Yeah.
And so we announced it in 98. We get it in 98.
No. In 74, we announced it the very next day.
Okay.
We said, we called it the Smiling Buddha and we conducted the test.
Okay.
It was very public. We claimed it was not a weapon. We claimed it was that is a nuclear explosive that doesn't have all the casing and everything so that an aircraft can drop it, which was complete rubbish. It was a fully weaponized device, apparently.
In the 70s?
In the 74.
So what happens in 98 that's different?
So batata hu. Now, in 87 is the next watermark. Rajiv Gandhi was trying. He knew Pakistan was very close to getting the nuclear device. He wanted to prevent that by all means, but India did not have the military or economic capacity to bomb Pakistan, especially when Pakistan was crucial to the American effort against the Soviets in Afghanistan at that time.
Right.
So what can he do? He can't bomb Pakistan. He can't invade Pakistan because he knows that will be crossing a red line with the Americans. They will destroy the Indian economy. He has compulsions at that time. Remember, India in the 80s is not India in 2025. We had very different compulsions in those days. So he found a sacrificial bakra, a sacrificial lamb called Manishankar Iyer. And he developed something called the Rajiv Gandhi Peace Plan, Rajiv Gandhi Action Plan, Nuclear Action Plan, which was he made this absolutely bombastic speech. And when he's making that speech, you can see that, the little, whenever he was being sarcastic, you could see this lip used to go up slightly.
Can we pull this up?
I don't know if it's there on YouTube, but you can see the lip go up, which shows you he didn't mean a word of what he was saying. He was just making a maximalist argument, knowing that the entire world would reject it. And what he said was, all of us, India is willing to give up its nuclear weapons, which had already been tested 12, 13 years prior, if the world is willing to give up its nuclear weapons.
Oh, so he was trying to play a gamble. Performative gamble.
He knew it was going to get rejected.
Yeah, of course.
The only person who didn't know it was going to get rejected apparently was Manishankar Iyer, who actually thought it was very, very sincere and that is why Rajiv Gandhi chose Manishankar Iyer, because he knew this guy would actually believe. Okay. And Rajiv Gandhi then, in 2 weeks, the USSR rejects it, America rejects it, UK rejects it, France rejects it. I don't know if China formally rejected it or not, but everybody rejected it. So he then says, okay, now we can build our own nuclear bombs.
Oh, right. So he got it like this.
So the weaponization starts, we know exact date. It starts from within about 2 weeks to a month after Rajiv Gandhi delivers that speech.
Interesting.
And he delivered that speech so that he would have legal cover to start weaponizing.
Got it.
That is when the first Indian nuclear gravity bombs were built. That is why he started the entire, he invigorated all the Agni Prithvi programs to develop missiles to drop those bombs.
Interesting. So what's so special about Pokhran?
Nothing.
But that's officially the date that the world recognizes India getting nukes, no?
No. It's just that we hadn't announced our nuclear status, but we had become a nuclear weapons power in 87.
Interesting.
87, we had already, by 88, 89, we probably already had about 15 to 20 nuclear bombs. As in bombs.
Proper.
The Mirage 2000s were hand modified. So if you read Air Marshal, I forget the Air Marshal's name, Sindhi Air Marshal, I forget his name now. God, I'm so terrible. But anyway, he wrote, he wrote a whole piece about it because he was in charge of that weaponization. It was very specifically mated to the Mirage 2000s. And he talks about how, because Indian production wasn't very good, the pylons, the nuclear pylons, the inner pylons of the Mirage 2000 had a hand-hammered quality about them, as opposed to the rest of the plane, which was, sophisticated machine-milled metal and composites. And how they were mated, they were observed doing bombing runs. It is photo documented that they were doing long runs and then normally a fighter will take off like this. Okay. They were taking off like this, almost like a civil airliner because of the weight of those nuclear bombs. That was a very clear indication this is not a plane taking off for the emergency of an air-to-air battle where Pakistani fighters have been spotted. It is taking off with a very calculated specificity to drop a nuclear bomb with an extremely heavy weapons load.
Interesting.
So all of this happened. Your nuclear doctrine, everything was ready. One of the reasons that at that time General Sundarji started this whole thing called Operation Falcon and Brass Tacks.
Which is when?
87, 88, maybe 86, that period, was to test the waters and see how America would react if India invaded Pakistan. That itself was, people don't realize this, but Rajiv Gandhi had he probably took the decision to go nuclear the very first day he was sworn into office in 1984.
Interesting.
He developed a very, very specific plan. General Sundarji was part of that plan. The whole introduction of mechanized infantry, which is infantry combat vehicles, which are lighter and smaller than tanks, less armored, was done for that. It was done in a very, very specific manner. Okay. So, despite what and Chidambaram is no man's fool. You will never convince me Chidambaram is anybody's fool.
Got it. I understand.
Okay.
I understand.
He knows this history. He knows this exactly.
Got it.
This is just a political. This is rhetorical.
I get it.
You know, if I get, say we fall out tomorrow or day after.
We can fall out right now, bro. No problem.
If we fall out, sure. I know that you are you're much stronger than me. You'll punch me silly.
Sure.
So what will I do? I'll be like, tu mota hai. I know all the, all the Ozempic and the Ozempic plus Munjaro you took in order to lose weight.
I took a Munjal. I ate a whole Munjal to lose weight.
Sure. Everybody knows you took both Ozempic and Munjaro injections in order to lose weight so that you'll look good for your wedding.
Spilling the secret shit.
Yeah. So, I'll spill all your secrets and I'll be really narky and bitchy about it.
Sure, right.
Okay. This is that.
I get it.
Okay. Now, 98 was the culmination of what? Narasimha Rao was doing the logical next step, which was to test those weapons. Remember, the weapons that Rajiv Gandhi had ordered built in 87 had not been tested. And there were a range of weapons that Rajiv Gandhi had ordered to be built. One was tactical, because at that time, Pakistan was way ahead of us. Remember, people don't realize this. Till about 1998, 99.
Their GDP per capita was higher.
Their GDP per capita was higher. They were richer. There's a very famous cartoon of two dogs meeting at the border, the India-Pakistan border. The Pakistani dog is fat and well-fed, and it says, I get whatever I want to eat, but I can't bark. The Indian dog is scrawny, its ribs are showing, and it says, I can bark as much as I want, but I don't get as much as I'd like to eat.
Can you pull this cartoon up? Two dogs cartoon, India and Pakistan. That is so interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Like, we don't have that kind of historical context.
We've forgotten that.
Yes.
We've forgotten the historical context.
We are born after this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Narasimha Rao went the next step. He said, we need to test these designs, because Rajiv Gandhi had asked for these small tactical devices, because the Pakistan military was ahead of us in those days, technologically. They had the F-16. None of these. It's an actual, I think cartoon. It's an R.K. Lakshman cartoon.
R.K. Lakshman cartoon. Cartoon search karo. They'll search it. You.
Anyway, agar aata hai, just, overlay this.
Usko hata de.
Okay. So what happened was, he said they could overrun us because they've got the F-16s and things like that. We need to have small tactical nuclear weapons that when their armored divisions come in, we bomb their armored divisions. And we need to have big city buster bombs.
Got it.
To bomb Lahore, Karachi and things like that. The entire range was developed by Rajiv Gandhi. Narasimha Rao was meant to test it. He very wisely, might I add, chose not to test it because of the economic reality of that time. But by 1998, we had stabilized enough, and there was both an ideological and a geopolitical need to test at that point. Because people don't realize that is when we came under intense pressure to sign the CTBT, NPT and all of that. India would have lost, had it signed. We knew we couldn't resist pressure to sign the test ban treaty.
Right.
So we had to test. It was our last chance to test before we then said, okay, we won't test anymore. And we had to collect all the data. So Narasimha Rao had a cushion period. He used that cushion period. Vajpayee did not have that cushion period.
So he had to act urgently.
He had to act at that point. Now it had to be justified differently. We can question the wisdom of writing to a Lothario like Bill Clinton saying China's our enemy. This is something that should have been said over a call. And you know what the Americans did? They leaked that letter. Bill Clinton personally leaked that letter and made it public. That speech was made in the context of China's furious reaction. China was initially lukewarm to the Indian test. It was only when Bill Clinton leaked that letter that the Chinese reaction became nasty and furious. And let us be very clear. There are lots of speeches of Chidambaram where he says you plan based on capability, not based on intent. Because he himself knows this. There was no war between Germany and the Allies for 20 years. Does that mean in year 21 there will be no war? No. The First World War started almost exactly 20 years after the Second World War started almost exactly 20 years after the First World War ended in 1919. Okay. It doesn't matter. You look at the Franco-German wars over 1,000 years, starting from the invasion of Britain in 1066 right up to the Napoleonic Wars. Every 100 years they used to go for war. 34 years and 27 years is absolutely nothing. He knows that, yeah. He's not...
Sure, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand.
So, I generally tend not to take these speeches. You have to know when politicians are peacocking and when... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, got it. So, what is happening in...
And let's understand, P. Chidambaram is not Manishankar Iyer. Please don't confuse the two. They're both Tamil. It's just that one actually believes, the other one has no belief systems.
Okay,
which I think is a much better politician.
I'm not going to bite. Wait, you're saying the one who does not have a belief system is a much better politician?
Of course.
It's a very interesting thing to say. Why'd you say that?
A politician should not have beliefs.
I think it's the opposite, no?
No. An ideologue is very dangerous.
I mean, you should have conviction for what you should actually want to change, what effects you want to see.
No.
No? Why? Then what do you change? Why is it not convenient at that point?
You should have an end goal. You should have determination, not conviction.
Interesting.
It is what Deng Xiaoping said. It doesn't matter if a cat is black or white as long as it catches the mice. I don't want a politician. The problem with ideology is you fixate on if it needs to be white or black.
Thank you, bro. This has been absolutely incredible. Wow. It's so interesting to me, all of this. I don't know. It probably wasn't as interesting to me even a couple of years ago. Or maybe it's just the fact that ये pop-up कर रहा है, you see this everywhere. But thank you so much for your time. And
why do you thank me that I make it interesting for you, bro?
Yeah. You are a great storyteller. That's probably the only thing.
I learned this while I was teaching at Melbourne because, you get your students rank you.
Yeah, after the class is over.
After the class is over. God forbid you're a boring teacher. And second, I found it much more useful to make things interesting for them because I found the general scores increased a lot. When they find it interesting, they learn it much better.
Of course.
Yeah,
100%. So, congratulations. You were a very successful teacher. But hey, thank you so much.